Hello traders, Gary Wagner here, just about noon in Honolulu, 6 o'clock in New York. It is Monday, May 14th, 2018, and this is the Daily Report for Gold and Silver. A strong risk-on market sentiment takes precious metal pricing moderately lower, with gold trading off about $7.50, closing at $13.20. We sent out a special trade alert this morning recommending that we raise our stops. We'll talk about that in detail as we pull up our technical studies. Silver down 22 cents, closing at $16.53, and that's with a modest fractional rise in the U.S. dollar, up about 0.1%, 12 points at 92.54. Silent but deadly is U.S. equities. That's that risk-on sentiment we spoke out. Now for the 8th consecutive day, gaining value, closing today up 68 points at 24,899. And finally, Bitcoin futures gaining about $220 on the CBOE and CME exchanges at 88.35 and 88.45. Traders, gold futures are trading under pressure today, trading near the lows of the day, currently fixed at $13.10. That's putting it down about $7.60 on the day. In other words, a decline of about 0.6%. It also takes current pricing close to the opening of Thursday's market action, and that was the day we saw a pretty dramatic climb in gold prices, and in fact, out of the last 6 trading days, was the only day to exhibit any kind of closing gains on the day. That is one of the primary reasons that we sent out a trade alert this morning and recommended that all traders tighten their stops. As you know, we put this trade on May the 2nd. We got in roughly at 1307, which is currently where the 200-day moving average resides. And our recommendation was to move our stop just below Thursday's low at around 1311. We put our stop at 1310.50, putting it just about 50 cents below the low achieved in Thursday's trading. Today's lower in pricing in gold also allowed us to identify a pattern that has formed over the last 3 days. And just as we saw a bearish Harami cross in the dollar index last week, although we haven't had a defined and sustained uptrend in gold, we can identify a bearish Harami and the confirmation, which is today's lower pricing. Therefore, traders, maintain your current long at 1307, maintain your stop, which has been raised above our entry price to 1310.50. Traders, as far as silver goes, it did close under pressure today, losing 1.3%, closing 22 cents lower, and there are some indications that we could see lower pricing in silver. If you recall from last week's show, we pointed out the fact that there was an unsuccessful attempt to breach and close above the 200-day moving average. That day, Friday, resulted in a doji, and then today's lower pricing gives us a 3-day pattern that is simply called a three-river evening star, this being capped off by a doji. And the last fact is that pricing closed just below the 50-day moving average. It is for that reason that my forecast on silver has moved from neutrally bullish to neutrally bearish in silver. Traders, lastly, a look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin futures. Bitcoin futures did gain about $220, but most impressively closed well above the 50-day moving average. As we spoke about on Friday, I believe that this key technical indicator, the 50-day moving average, is critical in terms of determining whether on an interim term basis Bitcoin futures are bullish or bearish. If support can hold at this level, it could make a play, but we do have real resistance at 91.77. That is the 0.23% retracement. Traders, we saw gold trade under pressure today, silver trading even more, but we identified a pattern that we noticed last week in the U.S. dollar, simply called a bearish Harami. Now, whether or not that continues is something we'll have to see in terms of how it unfolds. But with the United States and China going into trade talks, we could absolutely see some fireworks in the precious metals markets later this week. This has been Gary Wagner, wishing you, as always, good trading. We'll talk to you tomorrow for another daily update and review. Bye-bye.